few months after that, we came to an agreement with Liontown to farm into this Mawari ground, which is south of Mount Ida. So, and that, of course, was a huge kick for us.
Hello, and welcome to the Market Bull podcast. Please note, topics and stocks discussed in this podcast are not financial or investment advice. Sean Delaney is the Managing Director of Olympio Metals, listed on the ASX under code OLY. Olympio Metals is an exploration company focused on critical minerals with projects currently in Australia and Canada. Sean discussed his journey in the mining industry and the path that led him to joining Olympio Metals. On August 1st of 2023, Olympio Metals acquired the advanced Cadillac Lithium Project in Quebec, and this has now become a priority for the company to develop. Adding to this, they also have a farm-in joint venture with Liontown Resources for the two projects located in West Australia. These two projects are in the same geological location as Delta Lithium's Mount Ida deposit and Ora Bandas' recent Davyhurst lithium discovery. Here is Sean Delaney from Olympio Metals.
So hello, I'm Ben Kostrich and this is the Market Bull podcast. Joining me on the show today is Sean Delaney, the Managing Director of Olympio Metals, which is listed on the ASX under code OLY. It's a junior explorer. It has projects in Canada and in Australia, and we're going to dive through a lot of those projects and some of the notable other companies in the area and the partnerships and joint ventures you've managed to secure as well. So welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
So, as we said, it's a junior explorer and it's really been listed for under 2 years now. It sort of came into the market in that really iffy point of time with capital structures. But as we talked about when we called a coffee, it's held a very, promising level given the fluidity and the volatility in the market. But before we dive into what the company is, who are you as a person and what have you previously done and what's led you to this position now?
Thanks, man. Yeah, look, it's, I've been in the mining industry or the exploration industry pretty much all my career. I came from Ireland to Sydney in late 1989, which is a long time ago, with a lot of other young Irish people. And after about 3 months there doing what all the Irish did in Sydney in those days, which is a lot of drinking and carrying on, I came to Kalgoorlie. I decided to come to Kalgoorlie. I had a neighbour who was living in Kalgoorlie and working in the mining industry, which I didn't know anything about, but I thought, well, you can make money in the mining industry, so that's the place to go. So I caught the train from Sydney to Kalgoorlie, which is...
that's a fair long distance of the train, yeah.
I just had a seat. I didn't have a sleeper, so I had $300 in my pocket. And yeah, I never complained about another journey for many, many years after that trip. So... And then I got a job as a driller's offsider with Glindemann Kitching in Kalgoorlie, and that was really the start of my introduction, I guess, to the exploration industry. And then I progressed to being a driller there, and so I was a driller for a number of years, mostly around Western Australia, diamond driller. And then I worked for some other downhole surveying and other companies. And then I guess when I hit 30 years old, I decided it's a young man's game, so I turned to study and became an accountant. I did my degree and my CPA and MBA over sort of a number of years all through Curtin, and then joined Croesus Mining was my first sort of accounting mining job, and that was a great experience, exciting times. I acquired Central Norseman from Western Mining at that time, so it was hectic, entrepreneurial, hardworking, and so and then I just sort of progressed in different roles with CFO of listed companies, and then as about 2008 I decided at the end of 2007 I decided it's time to move to Perth to get into the more corporate exposure. Of course, into 2008, the worst time in the world.
Picked a bit of a time, yeah.
So timing is everything in life, as I've figured out. But and then I started to work with a couple of other listed companies, and various things have happened over the years. But I went to work with a company called Rocktivity, who's a mate of mine, Daniel Houghton, who I knew from the Wembley Vets Football Club. And I started work with him in 2021, and then he decided to buy some projects at Mawari, which he bought, personally at that time, because we had a little gold consolidation play in mind for a listing. And as I said, timing is everything. We bought those projects in June or July 21, and then literally a month after that, TNT Mines, as they were called, then bought the Mount Ida project from Ora Bandas, for a 10 million gold copper project. And within 2 months, it was a lithium province, literally.
Taken over.
The lithium the spodumene was in the core. And now that's Delta Lithium, now, who obviously are developing the Mount Ida project. And so that obviously helped, having that ground and that location south of Mount Ida. And so we got some of the gold ground at Halls Creek and put an IPO together. Look, the Lithium Royalty Corp were a major shareholder in the Mount Ida project at that time. So they came in for a couple of million of the IPO, which obviously was a massive boost, and they're still our major shareholder. So we put that ground together, put the company together, and decided that I would run the company. This is my first MD role after being in the industry for sort of 30 odd years. So long apprenticeship. So that's sort of how I got to this path, I guess.
And I mean, these projects, you touched on a few of them, and it's sprawled out across Australia and Canada. And we'll dive through a bit more of them. But yourself, I mean, going into this new role, have you noticed that there's been quite a lot of changes within the industry since you've sort of been working there, and now that you're in this MD position, even over the last 2 years, have you seen these really sort of rapid changes and developments within the sector, or is it, again, that is just a lot of noise from the outside?
No, I mean, I think there's been a lot of change. Look, in the lead up to the IPO, to the listing of Olympio, I guess there was a lot of companies floating, on, what you could describe as, reasonable quality assets. So there was really a boom time in the IPO market, and we were sort of just at the end of it. And then, the Ukraine sort of situation, it got tougher, from there. Luckily enough, we got the IPO away, because we were forced, it was a rebadging of an old shell. So our timing, we were forced into the timing, got the IPO away. But certainly since, in the last year, 18 months, it's been very tough for the junior space. And we're lucky enough had some very supportive shareholders and brokers and the vendors and the major shareholders. And, we've held up, pretty well compared, I guess, to, a lot of our peers. But it's been tough. But I suppose the lithium story has really grown since that time even. So I guess the critical metal story is where it's at right now. So that's been the major change, because I think there's a pool of risk money. I've always said this, that moves around, and when that pool shrinks, with high rising interest rates, higher inflation, then the speculative stocks struggle a lot. So it's certainly been tough on the junior end.
Well, that's what I alluded to at the beginning of the show, is that, your share price, at least from where you IPO'd, has hovered around that same sort of band. And I think a lot of companies would like to say they've been there, but it's been quite hard going. And that's more a reflection of the quality of the project. So if we're diving through what Olympio Metals is, I mean, how do you describe that company to people that have never heard about it before?
Yeah, well, I guess it's, focusing on the critical mineral space. So when we were last November, we it was mainly driven a lot probably by the success of WA1, who are a rare earths explorer. But we were looking for niobium rare earths possibilities, and Dave Bebbington is our geologist, and he's the brains. So he's the brains behind the geology in the company. So we identified this amazingly. Together we identified this thing from the South Australian database, and so we you're always looking into the future as a junior explorer, because you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen? Where do I need to be 6 months down the track or 12 months down the track? So we acquired this carbonatite project in South Australia, the Eurelia project. First of all, through a joint venture with a sort of a reluctant vendor initially, based on the rare earths possibilities there, and the fact that this was diamond sort of exploration ground by Stockdale and Flinders for many, many years. But when there's kimberlites there, so we know the plumbing is deep, which means that's where these carbonatites are. They're always close to sort of deep mantle structures, if you like. And Mount Weld is rare earths mine in a kimberlite field. And so we identified that project and acquired that project, and I guess the success of some other, carbonatite rare earths explorers perhaps, helped to, to keep us our share price up effectively, because you think you're in with the chance of perhaps, discovering something, significant, and then we were a few months after that we came to an agreement with Liontown to farm into this Mawari ground, which is south of Mount Ida. So and that, of course, was a huge kick for us in a sense,
time,
because as a junior explorer, you're just trying to put your head above and say, look, try give me some attention. There's 300 other companies out here. So so that sort of worked for us, I guess, in getting us some attention. Being able to talk to people about, and so Liontown have had a very loyal following, I guess, and some people have made significant amounts of money. So that was great for us. But as I say, you need supportive shareholders who hold on, who are in for the long term, who are just not sort of flipping and we conserve our cash, try and work in a systematic way. So yeah, it's sort of been part of the journey that we've been able to hold up, to this point. And we just raised some money at 18 cents for the Cadillac acquisition. So so we've held up pretty well, but obviously it's still tough. You got to keep working at it.
Very much so. And you're addressing, really, as you said, all the critical materials for the EV transition, the lithium, the rare earths, and some of the gold. And I mean, if we're filtering through, we can almost start now with the raise to acquire the Canadian asset. Can you talk to us a little bit about that project and I mean some of the, I guess, notable differences, or why that's been so attractive for you guys to pursue?
Yeah, well, look, as I said, you're always looking for new projects, and we'd been looking for a more advanced lithium project than what we had, right? If I can say that, because Mawari project's early stages, and obviously as a junior small market cap, you're not going to be able to acquire a project with a resource. So you've got to try and find that window, where you're taking a big enough bite, but you're not sort of blowing the you're going to blow the
budget,
the market cap up. So we looked at lots of projects, and James Bay was, of course, really came on the radar over the last sort of 12 months, I suppose, in a big way, with Patriot and Winsome. And so there's lots of ASX companies were acquiring projects in James Bay, and the market was very bullish on it, probably six or 8 months ago. So look, I mean, obviously speak to a major shareholder, say, look, what about this Quebec acquisition, that pathway, and they were supportive of the idea, but we had to keep looking. But I really, I just had sort of a simple rule in a sense, said, okay, if we're going to acquire a lithium project in James Bay, this sounds very basic, but I'm not a geologist, but it has to have lithium in it, right?
Yes.
That's the start, okay? So I can't
straight off the name.
It can't be just a project that's near somewhere, or has never had any work done. So and of course they're tough to find. So the Cadillac project has got lithium in it, because the Vision Lithium, who are the vendors, they've done some channel sampling there. There's dikes there. We've got spodumene on the surface, and they drilled 30 odd holes into it. It's got some nice high grade in the drilling. So that just shows you that the spodumene on the surface is not just surface enrichment; it's also down deep. So I suppose, and they were selling it for the right reason. They have two other more advanced lithium projects. They're listed on the TSXV. It's tough there. It's tough to raise money.
And people are going to say, why are you holding on to that? You got to move it off your books in a way.
And also, dilutionary effect by them, by them raising further funds at sort of lower share price. So they're selling it for the right reason, and then we're looking at it thinking, okay, well this is a real possibility here, but it wasn't a cheap acquisition, but of course they were pretty sort of solid on the price. There was plenty of interest in it, and so you've got to sort of take a reasonable sized bite, like I said, and commit to sort of paying the money for a project that's got some quality, but not just having lithium in it, but I mean location it's tough to tell from when you're reading a PowerPoint. But now that I've been over there and had a look at the project, it's
Accessibility is very good.
It's amazing. You don't need a helicopter to get there. You can drive out there. It's got services in the town. Yeah, so Val-d'Or is the town that's nearby, and that is literally Kalgoorlie in a different setting. It's a frontier town discovered by gold prospectors. They were moving west as opposed to Kalgoorlie moving east, but lots of gold mines dotted along the Cadillac Falls. A big gold mine next to town. You can feel the blast from you.
Yeah, you just know it's all about mining in that
so it's
area.
a mining town. So great location. And yeah, look, I guess you want to. There's no lakes around it. Where our project is 190 square kilometers, but there's no lakes. It's in a forested area, but it's a regrowth. It's not an old. It's a it's regrowth that's being harvested, I guess. So great area, lots of prospectivity. So yeah, I guess we decided we'd push ahead with that acquisition and really focus on that.
And now you find yourself with the position now that you have the project, and I can imagine it's quite exciting having it, but then all the next steps come in, and we're talking, we're recording Monday, the 11th of September. You just announced some news this morning about some of the plans and ongoing operations you're going to be implementing. What are the now future plans to develop it and expand that tenement that you've got there?
Yeah, so on the Cadillac project, we've got we've contracted an exploration company, if you like, so there's a couple of them in Val-d'Or and in the town next door, Rouen. So they're basically, they do exploration work. They've got geologists, field assistants. They do logistics, and they can do approvals for your drilling and all that sort of stuff. So we've already been out. They've already had them out there for the first lot of sampling on this pegmatite. So the Vision Lithium, luckily enough, had actually stripped off the moss from several other pegmatites, but they'd never sampled them, and it's a huge amount of work. So we really had the advantage of that sort of work being done. So that's going to give us a great start, and then from there we're really just going to fan out around this Wells Lacoussier, just like where the existing spodumene is in the drilling, because we know there's fertile pegmatites there. So yeah, we really just have to be aggressive with our exploration there over the next couple of months in the field exploration, because when the snow comes, you can't see the rocks anymore. So you can drill there, you can be drilling there if you're ready to go, but you can't really do any field work because you can't take samples from the surface.
Seasonality comes into effect.
Yeah. So the project we've got, we can drill all year round. You don't have to wait for the frozen lakes or anything to get over. But so we just have the next couple of months of just being aggressive, getting out there, sampling as much as we can, and really just finding other pegmatites that have got lithium in them, and that's really just going to generate some drilling targets for us, pretty quickly. And then from there, we have to design a drilling program, and you've got to put some holes into it. The chairman of Vision, Victor, he's so bullish about the project. He just says, look, this project just needs a bit of love. It's it's sort of
didn't get that previously in a way.
Didn't have enough. Vision had spent a reasonable amount of money. They spent 1.6 million Canadian on the project, so they'd spent a reasonable amount of money, which is why we, I suppose the cost was a little higher. But he's a huge fan of the way the Australians do their exploration. They get out there and they put some holes in the ground, and they try and discover. Resources by getting out there and drilling it, right? So, and that's once we generate targets, that's what we need to do, because otherwise you're not going to find resources by just plodding along forever.
Agreed. And the looming question and the precedent really being set is that we need more discoveries almost yearly and at increasing volumes to keep up with this ever looming demand increase, which puts, again, a lot of pressure on exploration and companies to, from the manufacturers of cars all the way down to junior explorers to really start finding these resources, because there is just such a looming pressure from governments and consumers that they just want this really, and they don't have patience. They just want it now. And there are some extended timelines of when we need to achieve it, but it really puts a time pressure on bringing these projects online, which can be quite difficult. And I mean, the seasonality aside really means that when it does get a little bit more difficult, you can turn your attention back towards Australia. And as you said, you've got South Australia and West Australia. If we want to start, I mean, you highlighted, we sort of glossed over it, the joint venture with Liontown. I mean, they have a fair bit of news coming out at the moment, with a lot of speculation as to what's happening with their project. And there's no shortage of news about Liontown, but it must be quite, I guess, enriching to have them on board with your projects in Western Australia and looking for resources there. So can you talk a little bit about how that conversation and joint venture really started to develop? And I mean, where do you really see those projects going?
Yeah, well, look, I guess, look, as I said there, we're very happy to have them as a partner. But I guess if you look at, the map, I suppose, of the southwest of Western Australia, you look at all the lithium deposits that exist right now are in greenstones on the edge of the granites, right? So it's a fairly sort of basic geology model, if you like. But well, I mean, that's my take, in simplified geology.
Yeah.
But so the ground that we had, it's got very nice sort of patches of greenstone through it, with granites around the outside. So that sort of geological setting. You've got Mount Ida to the north, who are they're sort of expanding their resource. And then to the south, you've got Ora Bandas, who are obviously a gold mining company there, but they have drilled some very nice spodumene near Davyhurst, just to the south. So, in that setting, I guess, Liontown sort of recognized, okay, well, it's tough to find good exploration ground certainly in the southwest of Western Australia in the right setting. So they sort of identified, that, and, asked if we'd be interested in, doing a joint venture with them. And of course, as a junior explorer, you've got limited technical resources and you've got limited financial resources. So, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well,
it's a good opportunity here to elevate and expand. Yeah,
it's a great opportunity, because if anyone can find a lithium deposit, it should be the experts, right? It should be Liontown. They know a lot more about lithium exploration than Olympio does, and that's just sort of a function of the fact that lithium exploration is a new industry, really.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have a lot of, we don't have 50 years of finding undercover lithium deposits, expertise. So yeah, they in discussions with them, and then, as I say, the deal was structured, which I thought was very, suited us in a sense, because the stage one is 51. They can earn 51%, and we maintain 49%, which means if they progress to stage one and they discover something in the first stage, we can participate at 49%, which as a numbers person, I'm taking those odds, right?
Yeah, because, good position to be in.
Yeah, they we stay in at 49. They would be the manager of the JV using their expertise, but our shareholders have got significant exposure still to any sort of success. We would obviously have to fund our portion if we progress that far. So yeah, look, that Liontown have completed. They pretty much agree they would soil sample over all of the greenstone areas, within those 3 tenements, and that's sort of a free option, if you like. So if they decide to withdraw after that, they don't own any of the tenements. We get the whole thing back in the data. So they've completed that soil sampling now over those 3 areas. So now I suppose we're assuming their sort of joint ventures can still go ahead given corporate activity. We're waiting on a decision from them over the next 3 or 4 weeks, maybe, whether they'll progress to stage 1, and depending on once they get the assay results back from the soil sampling that they've done. So yeah, look, I think it's a great position for us, because it really just, as I said, limited resources means that Liontown are looking after that project, and then we can focus on the other projects that we've got, the Eurelia in South Australia and obviously Cadillac. So
exactly, well, it gives you the opportunity to, again, knowing that there's limited resources in a small exploration company, to go, hey, look, if you're going to put in the the cash and actually accelerate the project, and we get a little bit of benefit along the line, why not? And yeah, as you said, that they have got a proven track record, and there's no shortage of noise about the Liontown acquisition now and who's going to be owning that, and it's still really ongoing, and it's quite exciting. And as you alluded to at the beginning, it sort of helps separate yourselves from other players because there's no shortage of exploration companies. How do you differentiate yourself? And this is one of those sorts of key distinguishing factors to say, you've got Liontown looking and using your sites, and there's potentials to extend that partnership going onwards. But now if we swing across to South Australia, which is another foundation part of the Olympio packages, what is that area? You highlighted rare earths, and there's no shortage of need for those as well, and people are still almost behind the ball game with that. Even lithium and then rare earths is another whole kettle of fish. But can you explain to us a little bit about the South Australian project, the Eurelia project?
Yeah, look, as I said, Dave, it was so Dave Bebbington that we who'd worked in South Australia before, so he sort of identified the area. But the amazing thing about it was when we did the joint venture on that Eurelia project, then we looked to the south and the ground was vacant. So we pegged the ground to the south, which covers a part of the Wallaway carbonatite. Now, there was a paper by Jacks or someone in 2008. There's like 8 known carbonatites in Australia, right? So there's Mount Weld, Nolan's Bore and so on, and Wallaway carbonatite. So it's been known about for 50 years. So
it's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. So we were completely astonished because if you look at the history of carbonatites, and I guess it's not history, but there's something that's 600 known carbonatites globally, right? And 20% of them actually had resources or have had a mine, right? Which is an astonishing.
So that's a great strike rate.
Astonishing and now don't forget a lot of those, may be deep. So like that's an astonishing strike rate, really. And of course there are lots more carbonatites which are not known about, which will be discovered over the next 50 years. But in terms of a strike rate, it's an astonishing strike rate, and it had never been drilled. This had never been drilled because obviously that ground was where they were looking for exploration, diamond exploration. So
the focus was not on rare earths or any other elements other than diamonds.
Yes, correct. So it had never been drilled. So we really just thought, okay, wow, this is a real opportunity. So now that tenement's been granted, we've got some regional magnetic data. Magnetics are sort of the key to finding carbonatites because there's a signature. And now we're flying this detailed mag over all the southern part of that tenement to just to sort of complete, because there's detailed mag over the northern, just a fraction of the northern part. So really just sort of to complete the picture, with the magnetics, and then that's just going to give us the ability to generate, or just to sort of hone in on some very good targets. But look, it's we know there's rare earths, I guess, in the system there because we've had some rare earths drilling results from the Eurelia to the north. So we know there's rare earths in the system, which means we think it's a primary source, which means we think it's come from down deep. In terms of sort of your chance of exploration success, as I said, Dave thinks it's a fabulous project it hasn't been explored for rare earths. So we're super excited about it, and it's we've got as you sort of, it's only 4 hours drive north of Adelaide, right? So it's an hour to the east of Port Augusta. So again, easily accessible. And as you drive north out of Adelaide, there's this beautiful farmland. And then you get a bit further north, and there's some sort of imaginary line which I can't remember the name of, but you go past that, and then there's just not enough rainfall for this beautiful farmland. So it's sort of in marginal farmland, I guess. And we've been able to sort of have great chats to all the landowners there. We've got access agreements with them. So we're working together with the with the landowners. And so look, it's the perfect place for a rare earth mine. That's what.
It's sort of it's a no-brainer almost.
In terms of location, and you're not destroying beautiful farmland. Super excited about that. I guess we have to sort of divide our resources. I think Cadillac's obviously a priority.
Yes.
The lithium, but we'll do some drilling there. Certainly this year we'll just work out where exactly we'll get the best bang for buck in our drilling work. But yeah, I guess, we sort of believe, I suppose, carbonatite hosted, rare earths is where, that's where it's at in terms of, the best opportunity. So, you look at Hastings, Dreadnought, Mount Weld, obviously, which is, rare earths has come off a little in price over the last few months for sure. But I mean, I think everyone agrees that, that there needs to be further, rare earths mining outside of the current sort of world supply. So, so longer term, I think rare earths is a good place to be. But obviously, lithium is, as you said before, the global, the demand is huge. It's growing. I think there's, generally everyone's bullish on sort of, the long-term demand, which, should always drive price increases. So, the lithium space is, I guess, where we want to be right now as well. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of tailwinds, and even talking about Canada, partners with the US, there's a lot of money in the Inflation Reduction Act that's coming out to incentivize mining and production and just adopting these electric vehicles, which I don't think many people are saying no to. It's more about, again, getting the resources, and it's very well and nice and all to say that the EVs are going to be here and we will get them, but there's a ridiculous amount of resources that are required, and that's all feeding into where we're seeing there's sort of this instability with the prices, and there's this, again, it's disconnect between what we've actually got and I guess the news headlines, and there's all these sorts of price volatility moments at the moment, especially with rare earths. It's come off, but there's the underlying picture hasn't really changed. It's just been those, you say, market manipulators, or just the natural way that markets operate. But you talked about quite a few people, and I can imagine it's a small team, but quite a unique one. I mean, who's been a part of the team at Olympio Metals to really elevate and get this, as we said, these projects to where they are and onwards?
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, as I said, it's a small team. Dave, Dave Bebbington is the geology brains, and then I have to argue with them about what the technical versus what the market wants. Vian Maris is a South African geologist we've got working with us now, and the board, Simon Andrews, the chairman, he's and Aidan Patel is running Charger, is another lithium exploration company. They're exploring in the Northern Territory near Ora Lithium. So that's great to have him, there, who is running a lithium exploration company. But yeah, so the board have obviously been very supportive of the strategy, if you like, and the plan. So yeah, it looks it's a small team. Try and keep we've got a small sort of rented office. Keep it lean. But try and get the money into the ground and try and get value for it. And obviously, yeah, like I said, with in Quebec, we're using Technominex at the moment for some exploration work. They've got senior geologists there. Quebec, you need it's French speaking, so you really need a local team there to sort of get to work and understand the local system. So yeah, small team at the moment, but and we've had help from the from the vendors of Eurelia in terms of their expertise on what they've found over because they've got a small copper resource there, and they've been exploring for diamonds on that ground. So yeah, we're just using the expertise from
when available, when it's there.
Yeah.
And I mean, going forward, you touched on a few things, and you highlighted some of the plans that are going forward across the board. But over the next 6 to 12 months, you've just raised some money as well for expansion. What can investors really expect coming out of Olympio over the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, I suppose we have a few sort of significant catalysts. I mean, the Liontown decision is significant. We haven't talked about it, but we did some drilling at Halls Creek, which is one of our IPO projects. So you commit to doing some drilling in your prospectus, so you have to do that. So we'll have some drilling results from there. Who knows what that will sort of pop up with? That's a gold project, but South Australia will be drilling there over this year. And obviously Cadillac, we have to spend 500,000 Canadian as part of sort of the agreement to acquire the project. So yeah, we'll certainly be, and that'll be easy enough to spend in terms of if we're doing any serious exploration there. So yeah, we'll be really sort of pushing hard there to sort of ride the wave, I guess, of the lithium support. and also, to try and discover something and actually build something real, right? Because it's,
that's the end goal. It's
that's the end goal, and not a lot of people sort of manage to achieve that. You start an exploration, you discover something and build a mine. So that's the end goal. That's sort of the mission, where we want to be, but generating value for our shareholders along the way. So. We think it's of course, you're always looking into the future, looking for, further opportunities, but we're certainly focused on what we've got right now to just get to work over the next 6 months.
And it's an exciting period given the resources that you've got available. There's no shortage, you could say, of hawks or birds in the sky that are looking down on potential packages and making offers. And we've seen that really ramp up over the past few months, given the capital restraints and given the access. And that's where, as you said, it's been very notable that Olympio has maintained a good shareholder faith, maintained that share price where people really initially got in and are staying in. It gives a lot of confidence because we're seeing these big players start to come in and start acquiring good quality projects. And that's quite an exciting place to be at the moment, and I can see a lot more emerging. So I wanted to thank you for speaking on the show today. I know there's going to be a lot more news coming out, and I appreciate you sitting down and speaking on the show today with me, Sean.
Yep, no, super. Thanks, Ben. It's been great. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the Market Bull podcast. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow the Market Bull on our socials at Twitter and LinkedIn by searching The Market Bull. You can also subscribe to our newsletter on the website by visiting www.themarketbull.com.au.